Thank you, Antonio. That was incredibly inspirational. Our penultimate speaker is one of my personal heroes. She is everywhere where people need her. She's laughing because she doesn't think it's true because she's humble, but the truth is, Zahra Billo has been there, was one of the first attorneys that I have ever met. You know, growing up as a young Muslim in this country where people tell you that you are not worthwhile, that where people through their conduct show you that you don't deserve things that human beings are entitled to, seeing another Muslim attorney inspired me to also become an attorney, and several other individuals. Zahra, just today, was, or just in the past 24 hours, was at UC Berkeley with those students in the encampment, and where else? At Stanford University. Like I said, wherever people are needed, mashallah, Zahra is there. So it's my pleasure to announce the Executive Director of CARE, Zahra Billo.
Assalamu alaikum. It's so hard to come up after that introduction and do the best that we can for you without just acknowledging how hard the last 7 months have been. I talked to someone today, I don't even know his name, and he said, I recognize you, and why he chose to tell me this, he said, I cry every day. I imagine there are many of you like that. The last 7 months have taken something from us. Maybe it was the expectation that our government as it exists would do right. Maybe it's the hope that our elected officials, not those you see here, but in fact the ones that you don't, could be trusted with our tax dollars. Maybe it's the limitation as to what kind of carnage is possible while the world watches. And I could stand here and list for you all of the horrible videos I have seen, but I know you have seen them too. The thing about the man that struck me was, I think he was understating how often he cries. Because many of us are far past just once a day. You're hungry in Ramadan and you feel guilty about it. I love Target. Nobody should tell me that they're on the BDS list, because if you do, we're going to have problems. But I also need to go get a new suit because we have Muslim Day at the Capitol on Monday. And between Target and the mall, I need to find a suit that is BDS compliant, and shoes that are BDS compliant, and a purse that is BDS compliant. And brothers and sisters, how dare I? How dare I spend money frivolously in this moment? There is a Mexican proverb that somebody put on a frame and gave to me, and it's in the care office, and it's, they tried to bury us. They didn't know that we were seeds. I could just stop there, and that would be the end of the speech. But I'm a lawyer, so I will keep talking. Why do you think they asked Ahmed to be the MC? We're lawyers, we keep talking. What you've heard from so many of the speakers today is that we look to Gaza and the people of Palestine to teach us. The challenge I put forward to the community in my work is that we are not in Gaza. We could not go if we tried, and I'll tell you how I know that, because I have friends who tried to board a boat to take 5,500 pounds of aid there. And Israel pulled every diplomatic stop possible, pressured every country involved, and made it so that those people, despite sitting in Istanbul for 2 weeks preparing their boat, cannot sail it into Gaza. You can't walk in if you want, because I went to Egypt and I asked, how do I get from Cairo to Rafah? And they said, you cannot go. So not by sea, not by land, and definitely not by air. We are here in the United States, in Newark, California, having had really good chicken biryani and naan. I don't know why they thought that we would walk past the buffet and not help ourselves. That was funny. They said, no, not yet. I said, it's there. The Muslims are going to eat it. But why are you here? It's not because you are better than the people of Gaza. I reached out to someone whose relatives had been killed to offer them condolences, and he said, they are the lucky ones. They are the lucky ones. Why? Because they won't be asked what they did with their resources. They didn't have any. They won't be questioned about what they did with their right to speech. They won't be asked, what did you do with your money? Did you give it to USAMPAC or not? What did you do with your vote? Did you stay home? Or did you invite others? Or, as we know in our community, Sister Moina said we talk at parties, we also fight on WhatsApp all day. And I'm here for it. But that's not how we solve problems. The reason I'm carrying this quote, they thought that they could bury us, they didn't know that we were seeds. The city of Richmond is a city that I learned about maybe 15 years ago, when residents of Richmond boarded that flotilla. And some of you may remember, the Israeli occupation forces boarded the flotilla and killed several people. The city of Richmond said at the time, we're going to pass a resolution to condemn apartheid Israel. It didn't pass. But in October of 2023, the city of Richmond was the first to pass its ceasefire resolution. And then it was followed by San Francisco and Oakland and Fort Bragg. San Francisco, Fort Bragg, the Santa Clara County Board of Education, and most recently, of course, East Palo Alto. The list goes on. There have been so many cities that have passed ceasefire resolutions, but I want to lift up for you a moment Hayward. Because in Hayward, pro-Israel voices tried to quash the resolution. They said, no, we have a city policy, we can't comment on it. Do you know what the activists did? They came back and they said, that's fine, no ceasefire resolution. Let's work on divestment instead. So they skipped ahead of everyone. And they divested $1.6 million from corporations that are profiting from the genocide. The city of Richmond will now follow Hayward, right? And so you see how it goes. Everywhere someone does something good, it's contagious. And don't ever think I've done everything there is to be done, because the people in Richmond could be like, look, we were the first, and now we can relax. But Hayward divested. So this week, Richmond will vote on divestment also. And so we see that when we work and we try and we keep on going, right, more than a decade of work in Richmond to get to where they are today, we see results. But the students, oh, the students. So for me, it doesn't start with the encampments. Actually, it does, because we should take credit on the West Coast. Some of you think Columbia started it. How many of you think Columbia started it? Stanford started it. Stanford held their camp for 120 days at the beginning of what we thought would be a short Israeli incursion into Gaza, but became quickly a genocide. It started on the West Coast. And we were out there every day and then every week to be like, this is how we do it, this is what we can do to support you. But the reality is that through that process, the students were teaching us. A sister said to me today, she said, I look young, but my knees will tell you how old I am. And I thought, I didn't tell her and I won't identify her in the crowd, but I thought my lower back tells me how old I am. The students were teaching us how you stay awake at night, how you protect yourself from pepper spray, how you bring more people into the encampment, how you talk about Palestine to recruit more and more people, and what persistence looks like, because the reality is many of us are exhausted after one event, 2 events. I told somebody today, I said, look, I had 4 events, and they're like, how do you do it? I was like, those students have been out there sleeping outside for 6 days, 7 days, 120 days. Malak Afane called me a couple of weeks ago. Some of you may recognize the name. She's a UC Berkeley student from Palestine, a 3L, so she's graduating this year. And UC Berkeley invests in companies that are benefiting from the war abroad. And the students have been calling for divestment, and they've been met with complete silence for the most part. And in fact, they have been attacked by professors and administrators, and the university has not taken adequate measures to protect them. If you don't know Malak, you know Dr. Hatem Bazian. A private group rented some trucks, put his face on the side of the trucks, called him horrible names, and drove it around campus. The university did nothing. So when Malak and these students with her received an invitation to the dean's house, they said, let's go. First they said, we're not going. Then they said, let's go. And they went to the dean's house for a graduation dinner. Malak stood up. She had a speech prepared, but she only got out 2 sentences. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Tonight we mark the end of Ramadan. That's about as much as she said. Before the dean's wife, Professor Fisk, put her hands on one of our daughters. Put her hands on one of our daughters the same way that Max Steiner put his hands on young Palestinian girls in Monterey. When we think about the violence in Gaza, I want you to know that it doesn't stop there. That those people and their partners are willing to do it here as well. Wrapped her arms around her neck, tried to grab the microphone from her. These so-called champions of free speech resorted to violence to shut her up. What were they afraid she would say? What would they have lost if she had said it? What was it about her Arab and Muslim identity that made her dangerous for simply opening her mouth? A week later, Asna Tabassum, who worked so hard at USC to be elected valedictorian, was told by the university administration, you cannot speak at graduation. We respect you, your accomplishments are great, but we can't manage for the safety of graduation. President Obama spoke at USC. Milo Yiannopoulos, crazy extreme right-wing activist, spoke at USC. And you're telling me this young Muslim graduating valedictorian was too dangerous to host? Malak worked with CARE and a number of other organizations to push back. She said, I'm not going to let you silence me. That graduation that she would have spoken at would have had, I believe, about 65,000 people at it. One of her CNN interviews had over 20 million views. They tried to bury us. They didn't know that we were seeds. Columbia University. The students said, let's set up an encampment. Same situation as Stanford, the university is not responding, let's set up an encampment. The president of the university came down harder than we could have expected on the first day of the encampment. Called in the NYPD, students were arrested, suspended, just thrown on the street. Imagine you live at a university, you live at your house. It's very much akin to the Palestinian experience. It's still more privileged. They were given 15 minutes to get everything they needed and get out. The Palestinians don't get 15 minutes. But you know most of us couldn't do it in that time. When I move, it takes me a month, and I have to pack a box a day, and then I think about it, and then I look at the box, and then I unpack it, and I do it again. 15 minutes to get everything. More than any Palestinian will get. What that president could not have imagined is that the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and we are opening encampments, and by we I mean these brave students are opening encampments at a rate of more than 1 per day. There are over 60 Palestine solidarity encampments at colleges and universities across the country, not including, give them a round of applause. We made a cute little Instagram graphic about it, and now every day somebody writes to me and says, can you add this campus, and can you add this campus, and we're having program. I was like, yes, but she thought that she would bury them. And they were seeds. That movement has now spread, as one of the speakers reminded us, to Europe. Usually we bring their protest movements here, now we're outsourcing. The students are putting everything on the line. And it's easy for me to stand up here and tell you all of these things because I know I have the privilege of the more the Zionists hate me, the more job security I have. So I can say this. I can say this and I can encourage them to do it. But they want to go work at a law firm, and they want to go work at a tech company, and they want to go work in medicine, and they are still saying, I will risk everything because the genocide needs to stop. Brothers and sisters, they are leading the way. The people of Gaza teach us what courage looks like. The people that are going to these city council meetings teach us what persistence looks like. And these students, they challenge us. Because if they can do it, what is our contribution going to be? Many speakers have alluded to this already, but it bears repeating. All of us will answer to our Lord someday. Those martyrs in Gaza, their test, they have already aced it. They feel no pain, they go straight to heaven. Our test will be, what did you do with your able bodies? Were you willing to march? Were you willing to take risks as people who don't even share our faith are putting their bodies on the line? What did you do with your free speech? Those of us that are first, second, and third generation immigrants, what did you do? You came here from places where maybe you couldn't say what you can say here. Now will you say it? You have a vote. We look at all the countries fighting for votes, and then we say, we have the vote and we lost our ballot. Let me tell you, if you lose your ballot, there is a way to get a replacement. That is not an acceptable excuse, and Sister Moina is so generous for tolerating it from you. I am nonviolent, but I might punch you if you said it to me. I won't punch you, maybe. Depends. It depends on how the November election goes. But what did you do with your vote? And they didn't ask me to say this, but I will ask on their behalf. What did you do with your money? Our brothers have worked so hard to build an incredible structure, to do all of the less fun parts of setting up an organization. They've ideated it, they've brought us together, and you know something I haven't heard anyone say today? This is a beautiful intra-faith gathering. I have not seen so many Sunni and Shia brothers and sisters in a room together in a very long time. Our brothers did that. And tonight they've asked you to donate generously. Frankly, it is the least that you can do. If you have not yet donated, I urge you to donate right away. And if you have donated, I would urge you to consider what more you can give. The students at Stanford will spend the night there tonight. Do you know what their most urgent supply request was when I saw them? First and foremost, they want you to visit both encampments and to just spend time there. So if you have not yet been to an encampment, you need to go. But their most urgent supply request there tonight was that they need hand warmers. How many of us, no, they're fine. They will get those supplies. I say it to ask, how many of you will go home tonight and adjust the thermostat to whatever level of comfort you need? The least you can do is to make an uncomfortable contribution to USAMPAC. Not an easy one. I'm not even going to tell you to do a generous one. I want you to push past generous and ask what is uncomfortable for you. For the students at Stanford, for the students at Berkeley, for our Muslim electeds who are running for office and putting themselves on the line, but most importantly, for our brothers and sisters in Gaza. Jazakallah khair.